Join UF Hall of Famer and 14-year NFL vet Shane Matthews every weekday as he brings you all you need to know about your Florida Gators, including news, analysis, and opinions with some of the biggest names in sports. Find us on Spotify, Apple Podcast, Google Podcast, or wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts, or watch us live at 8 a.m. on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter.
Good morning, and welcome to a Tuesday edition of PodUp with Matthews in the morning from the International Diamond Center Studios. Fine jewelry, watches, and much more. Family owned and operated with the largest selection of natural diamond jewelry. Today's program, we'll have Buddy Martin from the Buddy Martin Show. Then we'll have Kevin Brockway from the Gainesville Sun. Get the updates on all the Gators at the NBA Combine, things of that nature. Let's go straight to the Titan MR hotline, courtesy of Comfort Tent. We're joined by the host of the Buddy Martin Show. You can listen to Buddy Monday through Friday nights, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. All your different platforms for podcast. Good morning, Buddy. How you doing?
Good morning, Shane. I'm here now. I was here a little early this morning. I chalked it up to being an old man, but you know what happens is that sometimes I get up in the middle of the night and I'll use the restroom and come back and I'll sit in a chair in the living room. And I fell asleep this morning at 5 o'clock. And I wake up and I have this bright sun coming in off the Gulf of Mexico here in St. Andrews Bay. And I thought, oh my gosh, I've overslept. And of course, you know the feeling when you think you've overslept. It's never fun. So I click on, I think, don't see anybody. I text you, Shane, I'm here. Well, I was there, all right. I was an hour early. But you'd be surprised what you do when you have extra time, Shane. I learned all kind of things in the hour leading up to this.
There you go.
Yeah.
No doubt about it. Well, Buddy, we appreciate you joining us the program. You're going to be a little tired this morning, I'm sure.
I'm good.
Let's talk Gator baseball. We talked Gator baseball last night on your program. Tremendous turnaround so far this season. Can end it. And I don't know how many games they need to win against Alabama to even be considered to host. I don't know if they need to sweep Alabama, then win some conference tournament games. What are your thoughts on that about hosting?
Well, we asked Steve Russell last night, who's an authority on the subjects, all things Gator baseball, and he wasn't sure. He warned against taking Alabama for granted. He said they're really a gritty baseball team, and they can play. And then so it would feel obviously you want to sweep the series, but at least you want to take the series. They start Thursday night this week. Softball starts Friday night. It's hard to keep up, but I would think they got to be getting close, don't they? I mean, they're ranked nationally all of a sudden, top 25. Who would have thought when this team started 1-11? What could you got in odds in Vegas on our own FanDuel that they get to the playoffs or even the World Series if they do? But I don't know the number, but suffice to say, if they take the series they're in, I think they might be in anyway based on what they've done. They would like to get to 500. They're one game out in the SEC, and this has been, as Steve said last night, maybe if they get to the playoffs and get to Omaha, maybe Sully's best coaching job. And I can't get over the pitching job by Aiden King, the freshman going in there to Austin against the number one team in the nation and shutting them down for 7 innings. By all rights, it should have been a shutout. He was magnificent. What a talent. And you're going to need every bit of pitching you can get coming up now in postseason play.
Yeah, no question about that. We got a texter on the Titan MR text line. Not sure who it's from, just from the 904 area code. Says, do you think Fred Taylor will get into the Hall of Fame soon? I attended almost all the Gator games when Fred played. What a great runner he was. Shame he's not in by now. I think Fred Taylor is the best running back I ever saw in my time as a Gator. Yeah, I think he was better than Emmett. I really do. Bigger, stronger, faster, more explosive. If he played for any other franchise as a pro, he would be in the Hall of Fame by now. It's because he played at Jacksonville.
Yeah.
That's my thoughts. But you got any thoughts on that?
I do, because quite often they elect people to the Hall of Fame, and if they play for a lousy team, they have a hard time making it. They play for a great team, which Emmett did, of course. They get bigger than life. People even forget Emmett skipped his senior year. He was a great player, and I saw him play every game that his senior.
Fred didn't play his senior year either.
Oh, that's true. That's true. But Emmett couldn't start, right, as a freshman. So anyway, it's
no,
Fred.
Emmett played as a true freshman.
He did. Okay, I
I'm
wasn't
just
sure
saying
what you.
I'm not talking numbers. I'm talking my eyes tell me or told me, and I was on the team 2 years with Emmett.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't play, but to me, now I know we had some great running backs before I got there with Lorenzo and Neal and those guys, but to me, the best from a physical standpoint of speed, power, explosiveness, I thought Fred Taylor was the best I saw.
Okay, take your word for that. And we got to be careful when we go back because everybody's era is different. And I don't deny the greatness of these two players. And Fred Taylor does deserve to be in the Hall of Fame. He'll probably get there eventually, but it may take him a few more years. And certainly we know about Emmett, but I'm going to give you a name was told to me by a former Gator quarterback who played with your coach. He said it was the greatest football player he ever saw at Florida, ever. And he never gets mentioned. And I mentioned his name. People say, who? I saw this kid play from high school all the way up and covered him in high school. Saw him play in Florida. Larry Dupree was a tremendous player. Now, if you bring him up in the same company with those two guys, people will laugh at you. But everything is relevant in terms of when you play. I certainly think Fred was as good a running back ever played at Florida. And there have been other good ones. But when we go back like this, Shane, one day people will start going back and ranking quarterbacks. When we're dead and gone, they'll say, let's see, it was Spurrier, yeah, whatever. And there was Tebow, yeah, and there was Werfel, yeah, whatever. And they don't know what impact Shane had on his program. I mean, for what you all did, they would never have gotten there, you and Spurrier. So it's kind of a moot point. I don't like to go back in time and say, should this guy be, et cetera, et cetera. But to answer your question and the leaders and the listeners' question, yeah, he should be in the Hall of Fame. I'm pretty sure. And I will say this, I brag on myself. I'm not just a Gator fan. I've covered a lot of sports in a lot of cities in this country. I've seen good players. I've seen great players. And so I think my eye is somewhat trained in that regard. I didn't see Fred play every game, but I saw him play a lot. He was a tremendous player, and Hall of Fame is Hall of Fame. He'll get in or he won't.
Yeah, he definitely deserves, in my opinion, being the National Football Hall of Fame. Question here on Facebook Live brought to you by Melvin Law from Brian. It says, buddy, I'm going to ask you a wild question.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just feeling optimistic right now.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think that the Florida Gators have a legitimate chance to win the national championship next year? They would be a dark horse, but I think our offense with DJ is going to be really good. Thoughts on that crazy idea?
Well, I don't know if I'd say legitimate choice. I think they have a chance. I think what they have a chance is to have a team that's going to be competitive and be in the playoffs. Let's take that right there and say, okay, I just looked up the toughest schedules. We all know what Florida plays. How tough was it? But out in Texas, they have a Longhorn Wire, it's called, and they rank the toughest schedules in the SEC this year. And during that time, I was an hour early when I had time to look up things. I was chasing down stuff off the internet like 6 places in Florida where you can live on Social Security. What a crock that is. And I was told, so what's the best school in Florida? And it took me, I literally went through 50 things, never found out. The ultimate, I thought, well, I'm going to pursue this. But the point is, the toughest schedule in the SEC, we all think we know. But I was impressed that the people out in Austin did this at Longhorns, and they came up with the schedule. And I'll give you the top four. Arkansas and Kentucky were tied for third. The number two toughest schedule in the country was not Texas, but Oklahoma, their rival. And the number one schedule was Florida. I I think they could win 10 games. They could win 10 games. I think they got a good chance of winning that, and I think surely they'll win 8. So I'm high on this team. You and I will be breaking it down all summer long, going through the schedule point by point. If you found out more and more about what players have been picked off, what players are not going to be there, etc. I like the program. In fact, I said last night on my show, I think you might have agreed with him. If you take that point in time, last fall, say the first time, the first of the 4 game winning streak, forward one in football, and then you intertwine the basketball season, and look at the baseball team, what it's done since the national championship in basketball. The baseball team is unbelievable. What is it, 13 out of 15 since that time? I go back to the same old thing. People tell me I'm crazy, including you. Rising tide raises all ships. This has been one heck of a run. And now don't even forget that they didn't bring in the softball team and all the other sports. This is an amazing run by Florida since last November in all sports. And what a basketball season. And what if Florida gets to Omaha and gets to the finals in baseball? Wow. And the softball team has a chance to do it too, although it's going to be tough. Oklahoma. So this has been a really good time for Gator fans, and I think they should feel blessed in that regard. Among the other things I found out, Shane, just so you want to bring everything here to you that I learned in that extra hour I had. The Miss Maine contest, just so you know, Bill Belichick's girlfriend has finished third.
She's from Maine?
Yes. Her father was apparently.
I have no idea.
She has, I read that she had like saved the fisherman, Maine fisherman, something. That's her big deal. And her father was a longtime fisherman in Maine, whatever. So just bringing a little information there on Bill Belichick's. And also, the other thing is that I read is they've hired a PR guy to help handle some of that in Chapel Hill.
Yeah, I don't follow any of that. I don't know anything going on in Chapel Hill because I think they're going to be a terrible football team, and I could care less what Bill Belichick's girlfriend does. Bruce Ogre State Farm offers a team of dedicated insurance professionals ready to help life go right with the right insurance options for you and your family. Visitogreinsurance.com. Give them a call, 352-240-1779. Barone71 on YouTube, brought to you by Quality Plumbing, says, sometimes strength of schedule hurts a program that has built themselves up to a top level. When you are favored in most of your games, you won't be viewed as having a tough schedule. I agree with that. Buddy, did you say the publication you read this morning has the Gators as the toughest schedule in football this year?
No, SEC.
Yeah, I don't see that. I know I'm in the minority, but we go to LSU. That's going to be tough because they have a really good quarterback and they probably have the best transfer portal pickups in all of college football. It's a big year for them there, though. There's so many new quarterbacks that we're playing against. I just don't see it being that difficult.
Well, the non-conference
look, if you play
pretty good.
If you play in the SEC, your damn schedule is going to be hard. So I don't know how I don't buy into the tough schedule. So,
well, I'm just telling you this from I know it's among the toughest. I know that, and I do think that. I mean, I didn't realize how tough the schedules were for those other teams. Oklahoma and Arkansas and Kentucky. I didn't realize that. This is put together by people out in Dallas, out in Texas, and Austin, who obviously follow the Longhorns. But let me say one thing to you, Shane. Just let me correct you on one thing. When you say you could care less about so-and-so and so-and-so, when I bring up those subjects, like last time I brought up the president and the Bianchi column saying that he was sort of partner to the whole scandal in Michigan because he turned his head the other way on the cheating scandal, the stealing of the signs, and even Steve Russell said he agreed. But the point is, you're a talk show host. If I bring it up or whatever, it's one thing. But if someone writes you a memo on the Titan MRI, what's the hotline? I forget which one it is. Quality Plan, whatever it is, and says to you, Shane, tell me about Bill Belichick's girlfriend. And you'd have to answer it because you answer all your texts and respond to them.
I don't answer all of them. I get so many, I just pick and choose. But I have no information, and I don't care about the Entertainment Tonight episodes going on in Chapel Hill. That does nothing for me. It's just like I can comment on the president. I really can't because you know, can I agree or disagree with the cheating scandals? Was it Michigan cheating? Absolutely they were. I have no bearing on what happens with the president of the University of Florida, so I don't have to comment on it. I comment on some things, but I don't have to comment on everything if I don't want to, buddy.
No,
Why
you
do you
don't.
think I have to?
I don't say you have to, but you usually do. You answer the ones that you read. You always, and that's your show.
Well, there's so
whatever you want to. It's
many
your
texts
show.
and comments. Yeah, I pick and choose. Speaking of that, I have a ton of text here, but this text came back in. Sometimes I delete them, sometimes I don't, but this one popped up from March and April. It says most of the baseball team will transfer at the end of the year. Will want to go to a better team. This team is a disaster. Rumor is that Sully said he has done all he can do for these Gators and may move to another coaching position at the end of the year. It's a terrible season. This baseball team is a disaster. That was back at end of March and 1st of April.
But that's good because
that's pretty funny.
You realize what a great job he's done to coach his team. When you see how bad things looked back then, he's done unbelievable. I mean, the injuries alone, he's getting shelved back, I believe. The injuries he got together at one time were unbelievable. I love his comments when someone asked him about possibly being down to 10 position players. He said, "What's that like?" He said, "Well, it makes the lineup card easier to fill out." But no, I'm giving you the business here just because I like to get your comments and get you riled up. But I did mention last night this other guy, if I may bring it up, about the post spring ratings. Josh Pate, I think it's a good football man. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know Josh Pate. I've seen a couple things that he does here and there. I know he's very connected. So yeah, I would. I don't know if I would agree with everything he says, but I think he does a pretty good job at what he does.
But you'd at least pay attention to it. Some of these things you don't even pay attention to. But when Josh Pate puts his name on something and he did the homework, he's talking to people, he's connected. And I'm not saying he's the best out there, but he's among the best. I'm just bringing this up because there's this post-spring 2025 rankings. We talked about it last night a little bit, but Florida's in the top 10. And his top teams, he's got Clemson. Several people jump on the Clemson bandwagon, primarily because they got a quarterback that's got some experience. Then he's got Texas second, Penn State third, Alabama fourth, LSU five. It's just top right now, post-spring rankings. What do you think of Florida being ranked number 9?
I mean, I like it. I mean, like I told you, I think the 3 teams in the SEC that are going to be intrigued by people for the rest of the summer are the Gators, the Oklahoma Sooners, and the Auburn Tigers. The same cast of characters: Alabama, Georgia, LSU, Texas, Ole Miss. People aren't going to hype them up. I think they're looking and some about South Carolina. I'm not sold on South Carolina. I don't care what they did at the last year. I didn't think they were a great. I didn't think they were a great football team. Lenore Sellers is a decent quarterback. He's feast or famine. You just never know what he's going to do. But I just think the changes that have kind of been made at Auburn, Oklahoma, and Florida, and the players they brought in, I think they're going to be clearly better football teams.
Yeah.
That would be my take on the off-season moves.
Agree. And by the way, the same poll, Miami is 12. Your Ole Miss Rebels are all the way down to 16, which sounds low.
Which that surprises me.
Yeah.
That surprises me. And maybe it's because of Austin Simmons, who's only played a handful of snaps. But I saw an article a buddy of mine sent me. Austin Simmons has already graduated from Ole Miss.
Really?
He has not been the starting quarterback. Yes, he already graduated. He's a very bright young man.
Wow.
A lot of people think he would be a better Major League Baseball pitcher than a quarterback in the NFL or college. But he has already graduated from Ole Miss and
that's a great stat.
taking a snap as a starting quarterback.
How could you not have graduated and never have started a game? My goodness. Wow, that's incredible.
Brent on YouTube, brought to you by Quality Plumbing, says Josh Pate does know Nick Saban isn't in Tuscaloosa anymore, right?
Yeah, well, yeah, Alabama seems a little high at 4. It seems like to me. I don't think. I mean, LSU. Everybody's all over LSU. I know they love Brian Kelly and all that. I'm not that big a fan. I don't think they'll be one of the top 5 teams in the country. They'll be good. They'll lose 3 games at least. They can't be top 5 losing 3 games.
This text from Kevin on the Titan More text line. Guys, I saw if the playoffs go to 16 games, SEC and Big Ten will have 2 playing games. Do you think it means conference championship games go away? I thought Brent told us the other day if they go to 16, the SEC gets 4 teams in, the Big Ten will get 4 teams, and then it goes like 2 for the ACC, and then there's 3 at large bids. I don't know if there's any playing games. I still think the conference championship games I don't think they'll ever go away. Too much money. It's all about money.
You know, Shane, we knew this is coming. We talked about it before many times. They start out in basketball. What was it, 16 teams? Now there's 64 plus whatever. They're going to keep trying to add games to teams every year. I've always said I thought there were 50 to 60 teams in the country that could be legitimately running for playing for a national championship. And they had to reflect that in their playoff system. They haven't gotten there yet, but let's be honest. It's about TV ratings and eyeballs. It's those top 50 teams that really matter, that draw to get the money. And so they're going to try to get as many as they can. I'm fine with 12 right now myself. Let's give it a rest. Let's get to 12 and talk about it.
This text on the Titan More text line from Chris and Mayaka says, how far behind us is the second best college athletic program as a whole? I think the gap's pretty big when you look at all sports. Our excellence across all sports is second to none. I'm not sure we're ahead of Texas, though. That's something we can look into. But, I mean, Stanford wins the the Sears Cup or whatever it's called nowadays because they have so many sports programs out there. But
I win rowing, maybe.
Thinking,
They're in there for rowing. So make sure we get that in rowing.
Yeah, but let's just say the SEC. I would say it's either us or Texas, quite honestly, when it comes to all sports. Texas has beat us in swimming. Texas went farther than us in football. Texas is the number 1 team in baseball. Texas softball is up in the top 5. They're very good in track. I would say it's between Florida and Texas would be my guess. I don't have.
Where's Andy? I haven't heard Andy in a long time. He's usually good at this kind of stuff. Come on, Andy. Where are you taking a vacation on us or what?
Andy's on here. He's already asked a couple questions this morning. Real quick, when Urban Meyer wanted it in Gator Nation, he made sure to get it to the HBC and his team at Spurrier's Gridiron Grill and Dorn's Liquors. Go beyond with smooth Los Landeros tequila. Few more minutes with Buddy Martin on the Titan More hotline, courtesy of Comfort Town. All right, Buddy, give me your picks for the PGA Championship.
I knew you were going to get to this at some point. By the way, I talked to Urban tonight, just briefly exchanged text, asked him what he thought of the Trump Commission. He said they need to keep their nose out of it. So that's his take on that. So did you say last night that you have not watched 1 inning of Major League Baseball this year?
I don't think I have.
I got to get you turned on to the Savannah Bananas, at least. It's not Major League.
That's not Major League Baseball.
Wait, let me finish.
Harlem Globetrotters.
Let me finish what I was saying. I said it's not Major League Baseball, and it is the Florida Globetrotters. It is up to the Globetrotters. And by the way, I saw a play last night on video. I can't believe a guy in the outfield, a banana left fielder, turned a flip and caught a fly ball. I mean, that's amazing. What they do is amazing. Yeah, so I'm going to go with. I've been thinking about this. I thought you'd ask me a question about the Quail Hollow this month. They're going to this week. They're playing. We know that particular stop on the tour because it's a regular stop. I've got a kind of a different group here. I was tempted to go Scotty Scheffler because how can you not pick Scotty Scheffler in anything and up to his standards recently? He might still be hurt. Well, I'm going to go.
He won his last tournament, but
he's just now starting to play good. He was dominating the good game. But would you agree he's not 100%?
I don't know. I think if you look, he's been in the top 10 or top 5 in every event he's been in.
Okay, I'm not going to pick him. I'm not picking him. I'm picking Justin Thomas, who's the hottest player. Great stat I heard the other day. Watching on the show after hour show that the most explosive player, and this guy had the stats in golf and ever was not Tiger but Justin Thomas. That's what he threw out some examples to talk about. But I think Justin Thomas, when he's rolling the rock, he is really good. I'm going to put him in my top three. Then I'm going to have to go. I'm going to go Morikawa. He's starting to play better. He can't quite get there, but he is defending champion, isn't he? I've forgotten. And then I'm going to give you I'm going to give you one that's on the comeback trail. Rooting for him. He's playing better. He can't quite get there. Jordan Spieth. Well, I love to see him. So I'm going to take Justin Thomas, Jordan Spieth, and Morikawa.
All right, those are three pretty good ones. I'm not doing my picks. I'm probably going to go with Xander Schauffele. I think he's the defending PGA champ.
You're right. He is. I just thought, he is. It is Schauffele because he's hosting a PGA dinner. I didn't know they even had one of those.
That's probably young.
And they apparently had it for quite some time. And so the difference is that the PGA pays for it here, and in Augusta you pay for it out of your own pocket. So you're right. You're 100% Schauffele is the defending champion.
All right, buddy. Who you got on your program tonight?
Well, Thorne Meadows tonight, and he'll have Rob Brown and the team. There's new shows called The Lowdown, the Gators Lowdown with Lauren Meadows. Be sure and listen. He does a great job. So check him out tonight at 9 p.m. Eastern.
This Day in Sports brought to you by Campus USA Credit Union. Put some star power to work in your financial life at Campus USA Credit Union. The 2007 PGA Players Championship at Sawgrass. Phil Mickelson beat Sergio Garcia by 2 strokes. That was the first event was played in May. So no longer in May.
Yeah,
buddy, good stuff. Appreciate your time. Go get you a nap since you were up.
Okay, I'm good. I'm up for the night, by the way, and I can go check on Bill Belichick's girlfriend. I'll keep you posted on that, okay?
Yep. Keep me posted on that, the president,
all the things you hate.
I don't care about. All right, buddy.
Not
That's
much
buddy Martin. Join us on the Titan More Hotline, courtesy of Comfort Temp. Quick timeout. Come back. We'll talk a little hoops, Gator hoops, Golden. Any of your other questions from Kevin Brockway from the Gainesville Sun. You're watching and listening to PodUp Matthews in the morning from the International Diamond Center Studios. We'll be right back.
Our premium sponsors are Campus USA Credit Union,
International Diamond Center,
Meldon Law, QC Kinetics, Dave & Buster's, UF Health Orthopedics and Sports Medicine Institute, JF Hayden Craft Liqueurs, Florida Cracker Kitchen, Los Linderos Tequila. Gridiron sponsors are Baker Sporting Goods, Comfort Temp, Electronics World, Florida Victorious, Gallo Car Wash, Miapa Latin Cafe, Peachland Dental, Quality Plumbing, Ruse Ogre State Farm, Silverback Concrete, 84 Lumber, Big Meals Cheesesteak, Celebrate Primary Care, Dowling Signs, Gator Bait Media, Gator Dominoes, Ironwood Golf Course, Okido America, Tropical Smoothie Cafe, UF Bookstores, Nest and Wow, MG&A Wealth Management. Watch and listen to us live on Facebook and YouTube. Listen to the podcast whenever on Apple or Google Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen to your favorite podcast. Remember to like, follow, and subscribe so you don't miss an episode. To become a sponsor, call my man Freddie at 352-284-3733.
Coach, you know what always impressed me? How you beat Florida State to win the 1996 National Championship.
And I was really impressed with your 06, 08, and 09 Gator teams.
And the way you coached Danny to the Heisman Trophy.
A lot like what you did with Tim Tebow.
You know, you won more SEC championships than you lost home games at the Swamp.
And you had plenty of super games in front of our Gator Nation.
Yeah, there really is something special about the Swamp.
I guess that's why we say about the Swamp, only the Gators get out alive.
To the Swamp and the Gators, with the best beverage served at Spur's Gridiron Grill, 100% agave, Los Linderos tequila, aged in bourbon barrels for a smoother taste.
I think you mean Head Beer Coach 1966 lager, a crisp, light, bodied lager for easy drinking.
Nope. Los Linderos tequila, smooth enough to drink neat and bold enough to elevate a cocktail.
1966 lager, enjoyed on game days in the fall or whenever you need a winning cold brew.
Los Linderos tequila.
1966 lager.
Los Linderos.
1966 lager.
Y'all stop bickering.
Okay, you're both wrong anyway. The best thing Spurrier's Gridiron Grill offers are Jerry's famous chocolate chip cookies.
I'm tired of you living in pain, and I want you to get real lasting relief from chronic pain in your knees, back, shoulders, and hips. QC Kinetics can get you moving again with cutting-edge regenerative treatments with no drugs, no downtime, and no surgery. Stop putting it off. Call now and schedule your free consultation. Call QC Kinetics now in Gainesville, Ocala, and the Villages. 352-400-4550. 352-400-4550.
Welcome back to the International Diamond Center Studios. Florida Cracker is the brand for original Floridians. Great food and southern hospitality in the center of the universe, Brooksville, Florida. FloridaCracker.com. Back to the Titan Tomorrow Hotline, courtesy of Comfort Tent. We're joined by the Gainesville Sun's Kevin Brockway. What's up, Kevin? How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing good. How are you, Shane?
Good. We got a lot of people commenting on the new commercial with Urban and the head ball coach arguing and which alcoholic beverage is better, Coach's 1966 beer or Urban's tequila. And then, of course, the wives come in and say Jerry's cookies are better than anything. So it's pretty funny.
I think
we need to work on their
acting. Over, Shane, but I've had
work on their acting skills a little bit. It's very good. Kevin, give us kind of an update. What's going on with the NBA Combine stuff? They're measuring these boys with no shoes on, their wingspan, their hand size, all that good stuff.
Yeah, well, I thought Condon was interesting. He's listed as 6'11", and in shoes that's 7'1", with a wingspan of 7 foot. So I think a shade over 7 foot. It's kind of interesting because sometimes you see a lot of these schools kind of fudge their measurements, but Condon was listed as 6'11" on the roster at UF, and he's 6'11". It measured without shoes, because some of these guys measure guys with shoes. Some of these guys they'll inflate guys by an inch and so forth. So Alex is legit, and I think Alex is a huge question mark. I saw where he said that he's going to prepare as if he's in the draft, and if that's the case, that's bad news for Florida, because I think they'd really like him back. Aren't competing in the scrimmage section. It shows voluntary, which I thought was interesting as well.
So how do you feel about this? What do you think happens with the guys? I think Chinyalu and Condon are the only ones kind of testing the waters. What do you think happens with them?
Yeah, I think it'll be interesting because of the fact that, we're in a salary cap era, right? And, our schools, they have that and so forth. So I am wondering if Condon comes back, does Chinyalu come back, or vice versa, how that all plays out. But if they both come back, there'll be some interesting financial shuffling from what I'm hearing in terms of making that all work. So, but I do think that Alex is going out there. He's going to test the process. He's going to see how it goes. I've seen first round pick, Boston Celtics at 28. That's going to be interesting to see if his stock rises. Walter Clayton's stock is rising, obviously. He's getting near the lottery range, 14, 12. I've seen some projections for him. So I think there's going to be at least one first rounder on this team. And who knows, Elijah Martin might go in the second round as well. I think the 07 team coming off the national championship, I believe they had 5 draft picks that year, including 3 lottery picks, across the front line. Noah Horford, Brewer. Al Horford's still playing in the NBA playoffs, by the way, almost 20 years later, which is amazing in and of itself. So that tells you that I think the scouts take a lot of pedigree in winning teams too. I think that's what it shows, over the years, and it shows that what you do in the postseason around the tournament can help your stock as well, which might be part of the reason why Condon and Walter Clayton aren't taking part in some of the scrimmages, because they feel like the tape speaks for itself.
Yeah. This is an interesting, I never even thought about this. Andy asked, and it was for Buddy, but I'm going to ask you, Kevin, on Facebook Live, brought to you by Mellon Law. Why doesn't the NBA and the NHL have a draft process similar to the NFL? Shouldn't the worst team get the first pick?
Yeah, well, the lottery is interesting. I think the lottery was designed, 40 years ago to prevent teams from purposefully tanking pick, which, listen, there was a lot of, as far as the NFL was concerned, right? There was a lot of speculation 5-10 years ago. You remember that report that came out with Brian Flores, where Stephen Ross was, allegedly asking Brian Flores if he could kind of purposely lose games. So I think that's why it came about. But yeah, I feel for a franchise like the Charlotte Hornets that have been kind of in perpetual, misery, and here's a guy like Cooper Flagg that could totally revive that city and that franchise. And he went to Duke, and the Mavericks that have a 1.8% chance, they win the lottery, so they get Cooper Flagg. I mean, that just doesn't seem right to me, especially because the Mavericks bungled the whole Luka situation, right? So now that they get rewarded by getting another star player, potential star player, that doesn't sit right with me. And plus being a Brooklyn Nets fan, I mean, they came in 8th, and they're another team that's kind of in dire straits. But it's just the way the NBA does it, And I guess I was listening to the Dan Patrick show about 40 years ago about how there was a conspiracy theory about a frozen envelope with the New York Knicks back in the day so they could get Patrick Ewing. I don't know if that was the case or not with David Stern, but it's interesting how that process works. And unfortunately, it didn't work out well for a franchise like Charlotte.
So you may have just mentioned this. I was reading a text, but did the Mavericks get anything? I mean, when they traded Luka away, did that affect this lottery thing that happened last night or 2 nights ago? Or could it have possibly, if they would have kept Luka, would they have still gotten Cooper Flagg and had both of them on the roster?
Well, I think what happened was they didn't make the playoffs, right? So they got bunched in.
Right.
I don't think there was a draft pick involved with that, Shane. I think it was just the fact that they didn't make the playoffs. But had they kept Luka, maybe they make the playoffs and they don't get to the lottery process.
Right,
so,
but let's just say
yeah.
if they had kept Luka and didn't make the playoffs, this scenario could have still happened, is what I'm asking.
Oh yeah, it could have happened. Yeah, it could have happened. And if it did, I mean, then you'd be really loaded,
Oh.
But we'll see how Anthony Davis, if he comes back healthy too, and how that process all plays itself out. But yeah, he's going to Dallas, and that will help revive that franchise possibly.
James's text on the Titan MR text line says, Kevin, in your opinion, does Todd Golden's new contract show how much the Gators care about basketball?
I think it's a good step, yeah. And listen, they extended Billy when they had to, throughout the whole time. I do think it's interesting how the buyout structure works differently for if an NBA team approaches him. And I think that's probably the next question for Todd next time we get him is, why is that in place? And do you have NBA aspirations similar to Billy? Because I think I don't think Todd would leave Florida for another college program, but certainly an NBA franchise, and they can have deep pockets in that regard too. And if he has that, aspiration or lust to coach at the next level the way Billy did, then that would be the concern, right? But it wouldn't happen right away based on the buyout structure. That would be something that'd be like 2, 3, 4 years down the road. So we'll see how that all plays out in terms of that. But I think it's a very good step. And listen, I think that Florida cares about basketball in that regard. It's going to be fascinating to see the House settlement, if and when that gets passed, and if Florida will publicly disclose the revenue breakdown the way Georgia did. I'm hearing that might not be the case, but how much you spend on basketball compared to football in regards to that, what you can raise, what kind of money you can raise, because obviously Florida, to procure talent, that's the way to do it. But Todd and his staff have also shown an ability, to get the under the radar guys, to get the guys overseas. He and his staff are going to work well in the budget that they have, I think.
Text here from Robert in New Orleans down in Bayou Country. I'm going to paraphrase. It's a very long text on the Titan MR text line. It's regarding where do the Gators sit with their roster in basketball right now? Transfer portal, is it closed? Is it still open? And what happened with the kid from USC?
Yeah, I was told off the record from someone about the Desmond Claude situation. He's like, "Hey, look, we want guys that want to be Gators here. We want guys that are going to come in and be guys that want to stay." So it sounds like he was maybe trying to use Florida's leverage for another situation rather than being and coaches can kind of figure that out through the process. So I think that that's how that kind of deteriorated and went down. I still think they're in the market for another guard somewhere, and there's still players floating out there. Obviously, the portal is closed for players to go in, but there's still a pool of players out there. And don't forget, there's also a pool of players that can pull their names back from the NBA draft that may be available as well. There are a number of players that have. I think the guy up the road at FSU, Watkins, is one of those kind of guys. But if Alex Condon stays in the draft, you would think maybe another big guy as well. And there could be some opportunities overseas too. Looking there in terms of finding players. So it's just the nature of where we are in college sports right now. You've got to be nimble. Certainly is in that position. So I think the roster is still a little bit in flux, but there'll probably be a better indication, after May 28th when some decisions are made as to, how they're going to put it all together. And, you would hope by the start of the second semester in June, it would be in a position where they could start to have an idea of what they have and then focus on summer workouts.
Charles on the Titan MR text line says, Kevin, who do you think drafts Walter Clayton Jr.?
It's interesting because I'd have to look at the draft order. There have been some rumblings about the Chicago Bulls, which would be interesting. Maybe the Orlando Magic would be a franchise. You take the hometown guy, and there could be a need there. But whoever drafts him, I think, is going to get a good player. I mean, I think they're going to get a guy who, is going to, Todd has always mentioned, some people have said the Steph Curry profile, which is obviously, superstar, not that. Todd Golden has mentioned Jalen Brunson, and look at what Jalen Brunson is doing in the NBA playoffs right now. So I think that comp still is a pretty good comp for an NBA franchise. And when you look at what Walter could do as far as, being a crafty scorer in the league, an ability to score a number of ways, whether it's long distance shooting, getting to the basket, and setting up other teammates as well off that. I think, if Walter profiles like a Jalen Brunson type player, that's very appealing to a lot of NBA franchises that are going to be, picking 10 to 20. I think he will probably end up in that range, 10 to 20.
Yeah. Andy's question on Facebook Live brought to you by Mel Law. Kevin, do you know if Ali Ruu, I don't know if I pronounced his name right, has any NIL deals?
I don't know if he has any NIL deals at this point. You would assume maybe he would. Maybe Werner ladder, right? That would be, given the fact that he can cut to that without a ladder, they can have a little fun with that, or, put a ladder next to him or something like that. But I know that, it's interesting. Todd mentioned this in San Francisco, that I think anyone expecting Ali to contribute next year, significantly, let's put it that way. I think he's still another year off based on everything that I'm hearing in that regard. Now could he come in for garbage time at the end of games next year? Yeah, but I don't see him as being a guy that's going to be, even with his size, he still has a lot of work to do to adjust to the athleticism of Division I college, and it's hard for a 7'9" guy, the coordination, everything that's involved in that. It's not an easy process for him. And, the conditioning, the cardio, getting up and down the floor, playing at the tempo that Todd wants to play at.
The Pouncey Twins provide all of Gator Nation with the highest quality liqueurs made by J.F. Hayden Craft Liqueurs. Find your favorite flavors at Spurrier's Gridiron Grill. A few more minutes with Kevin Brockway from the Gainesville Sun. Kevin, real quickly, baseball, man, what a turnaround by Sully and the baseball team. We got to wait and see how the postseason plays out. But you think this year or last year was a better coaching job?
Yeah, I'd have to say this year, because coming from 1-11, God, I mean, it was destitute. It's kind of interesting how, basically with basketball going so well, it was kind of swept under the rug a little bit, the 1-11 start. But I guess the local fans here or the diehard baseball fans were probably pretty frustrated. But, they figured out the pitching, and a lot of it, last year too. It's kind of similar. They figured out the roles in the pitching staff. Philpott didn't work as a closer, so they moved Jay Clemente there, and he's worked much better there as a closer as opposed to being a starter. Now you have Pierce Capola back, which is big for them, even though he's kind of starting out. He pitched an inning the week before. This week he pitched 2 innings. They'll probably ramp him up to about 4 or 5 innings by the time regionals start. So that's a bonus now, because now you have and this freshman Aiden King looks like the real deal. Liam Peterson has had a nice jump in his sophomore year. He's been pretty solid as a Friday night starter. So I think they finally have that pitching figured out a little bit, which has helped. And they've hit the ball pretty consistently all year. They don't have, obviously, the bell cow slugger like Wyatt Langford or Jack Caglione, but they've got 1 through 9. They've got a lot of gap hitters and some guys with some power. And Luke Heyman is really starting to come on. They've navigated the stretch without Colby Shelton, which has been impressive. He had the ham 8 bone injury, but it looks like he could be back in time for regionals. But Bobby Bozer has been a nice add, at third base. Blake Sears had a decent season. And this freshman, Brendan Lawson, too, has been really the real deal. He's played, both corner positions very well, first and third, and he can really hit. So they've got some depth up and down the lineup, and a little bit of, ways to manufacture runs more, which could, bode well for them in the postseason. It looks like, they're trending towards the number 2 seed, and who knows, if they sweep Alabama and they make a run in the SEC tournament, they could even host.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what happens. James on the Titan Mark text line wants to know, Kevin, give us an update on your Miami Hurricanes and Carson Beck.
Well, we'll see. I don't know what's going on with the latest drama with the Cavenders, where basically, it's nuts. But hey, listen, they're going to be, the offensive line. I think I think Mario's done a good job building the line of scrimmage, and if Beck could give them kind of a season similar to what Cam Moore did last year, I just think the big question mark is always the defense, and did they fix that, and did they shore that up? Because to me, I feel like they wasted a generational quarterback last season with how poorly they played defensively, particularly the second half of the season. They couldn't figure anything out. And obviously they've got the new defensive coordinator from Minnesota. His name escapes me, but they're hoping that that's going to help in that regard as well. But it'll be September 20th will be interesting. And I think that for Florida, I think that, when you look at that schedule perspective, you're coming off the LSU game. It's the second game of the road game. So it sets up probably pretty well for Miami in that regard. But Florida will be hungry for revenge as well. So that'll be an interesting matchup.
You think the Gators will have more people in the stands for that game?
I don't know if I would say that, because Miami shows up for the big games, but I think it could be. I think it could be 70-30, 60-40, like that kind of breakdown. I still think there'll be a lot of Gator fans there, but I think that Miami is kind of a big game. They showed, in 2017, they filled the place for Notre Dame. They've got Notre Dame. Notre Dame is going to be a big game for them too, because they start with them. It's a Sunday night game. They win that game, and then all of a sudden, the fans are, they're bandwagon fans there. It's a city town and stuff. But if they beat Notre Dame, there'll be a lot of enthusiasm, and I think the fans would then show up for the Florida game. If they lose to Notre Dame, then yeah, maybe it would tail off a little bit, and you'd see more Florida fans there.
Yeah. Kevin, good stuff as always. You got any good stuff you're working on that people can read on the Gainesville Sun and follow you on Twitter?
Yeah, well, today we have a depth chart story, and we've got, we'll have plenty of baseball and softball coverage, and it looks like I'll be out of both because the mighty Buchholz Bobcats, as you know, are in the state baseball finals, so Noah will be down there, so I'll be kind of pinch hitting for Noah and helping out with softball too, and it'll be an interesting. It'll be kind of a festive weekend, right? With both going at the same time here. Florida closing their season and softball starting their postseason.
Yep, should be a lot of fun. Appreciate your time, Kevin. Have a good weekend.
All right, thank you.
Kevin Brockway from the Gainesville Sun. Join us on the Titan & More Hotline, courtesy of Comfort Temp. Florida Victorious, proud NIL partners of the Florida Gators, join today to help make Florida victorious. Again, I want to thank Kevin and Buddy Martin for joining us. Tomorrow we'll have JC. We'll do our Peachland Dental PGA Championship picks, and then we'll also have softball coach for the Florida Gators before they start postseason play. Have a great day, folks. We'll see you tomorrow. Take care.